Thank you. And the job was quite tedious, but it's exciting because just as to work with dirt, all you could think of was making mud pies when we were young. But I was so intent on discovering what was in the dirt that it didn't really matter how close my nose was to the ground. We discovered Guinea back in, well, many years prior to the digging. We just walked the ground to look at some artifacts, and he knew that humans or people must have lived there because we found utensils, knives, forks, pans, and tools. So we went to the ground. Years later, we employed Dr. Christopher Lindner, and we got a grant from the Dyson Foundation to dig the property, excavate the land. Now, Dr. Lindner, with his field school and with volunteers like me, began to dig and found so many items that we were able to try to put together a lifestyle. I must admit that we spent so much time trying to fight the mosquitoes, the bugs, the ticks, but somehow you get through it. It doesn't matter. We use, of all things, downing, fabric softener. You stick them all over, and they keep the mosquitoes away. Really. And we look terrible, but that's all right. It's a funny story. We were, after every day, we would come down from the hills. Well, below the hill was a Boy Scout camp, day camp. And they were sitting on the ground learning about nature until they saw us. And they turned and like, well, what are they? What do you call them? And we were, to them, was things from the woods. It was so, we looked terrible, but it was exciting. It's very exciting. Every day was different. Some days you find nothing. The next day you might find a beautiful little porcelain button, hand painted in China. And we just knew that this pretty little button must have been on someone's pretty little dress. So we knew that, in fact, there was a bard, the bard gave a lot of property to the people, including clothing, dishes, pottery, everything. And they were freed slaves. They were free. But we feel that maybe there was a lot of passing through because we found church Indian possessions. We found diaries or evidence that certain people sort of passed through the area. Now, we can't confirm that it was an underground railroad, but it may have been, maybe. But we were also looking for anything having to do with religion or African backgrounds, but we were not able to find anything that was really define it as an African item. Now, we tried to study the African traditions, and what we noticed as you first walk in to Guinea Lane, at the foot of it, we found a large bedrock. Beneath the bedrock was all these shells, either they're clam shells or were oyster shells, but they seemed to be laying beneath this big rock, and we felt it was something significant. Now, there's two things. We learned that shells will keep the smell of garbage down, so it may have been a garbage dump. Also, we learned that maybe it's the African burial ground because Africans, some parts of Africa, believe that putting a shell on top of graves would allow the intern to see the sky. So we were doubtful as to what it really was. Now we also know that burials would be below a large hill, and we felt the bedrock may have been the symbol of a mountain to them. We were not able to really find a grave or a garden. Now, the garden, Prime Minister Martin, who lived in the biggest house on Guinea, was kind of the leader of the community because he was a great farmer, and we found tools like a potato hoe, and we found different items, an axe, different items that may have been indicated he was a gardener. But we never found any traces of the garden. Now, I have learned that if you're looking for a grave, you may look for 3 stones nicely placed, and they would be smooth stones, nicely placed, and maybe a small indentation in the earth. That would tell us that there might be a grave, but we didn't find anything. We were looking for it, didn't find it. We found something that was really interesting and well done. Was a hand-cut well or privet. Now, it's hard to tell which because it was about 36 inches deep. It was beautifully hand-cut. Now, the privet or well set alongside Fredonia Lane. So we believe that who would put a privet beside the main road? Not sure. But we thought they had been a well. So we thought very scientifically. Now, Jack and Jill went up the hill to get hill water. So we were thinking it would be easier to go downhill with an empty bucket and come back up the hill with a full bucket. So still, we never knew. A young man in our class was named Craig Oster. He was only 15, but he did scientific study looking for phosphorus in the ground. And he found samples of phosphorus in the area around pretty well. So we tried to trace dates, places, times, and whatever we could find significant, we tried to trace it. Now, bottom line is what happened? What happened to the people? We were able to dig down to the foundation of one of the biggest houses. What we found was burnt floorboards. One side of the board was burnt, the underside was not. Therefore, we believe that just maybe the house burned down. The Vanderbilts were building the railroad in the 40s, and we believe that people threw all their possessions into the house and burnt it down. And took everything they could carry and went to New York on the train for work, for better jobs. That's what we believe. But there's nothing in writing, nothing that can concretely say that this happened. But that seems to be a theory. Now, I looked again at the lifestyle because there were things present that made me feel, and I could envision, there's a big rock, and all around that rock, we found many, many clay pipes. The men were great smokers, and I could envision that as being a meeting place. And also, what I can envision, we had our own doorway. It faced south. We just figured that it was the front door. And we found a couple of not step, but stones leading to that storefront. And then on the right side, as you walk through the door, we excavated all sorts of kitchen items. We called it the kitchen. We found a whisk, a spoon, knives and forks, everything. I mean, everything that you would think a kitchen would have. And it was nice because they were intact. Believe me, the whisk was perfect, just perfect. And you know, it still had some of the shininess to it. It's so the dirt protected those things. It's when you bring up the air and they sit in the air a while that they begin to oxidize and deteriorate. But as long as you were under the ground, it's beautiful. There's a nice little bell. We could read, and it's still ringing after all the years. A little sleigh bell. And we were just so excited. I mean, that's kinds of things that got us really excited. In the middle of the floor, we found red bricks, and we found fire, a pond, a thimble, a scissors, and we just soon, and I can envision, and buttons. Somebody sitting there sewing in the middle of the floor. So there was the kitchen, there was, and bedroom, and I couldn't imagine anything that we found in one area. So we found large sheets of metal, and we believe that the roof may have been metal, and it caved in when it was been burnt. We believe that. So also one of the things that most houses had was a midden, and a midden is your garbage dump. You walk out your front door, toss. So what we saw on the left side was dump, and that we found paper, bottles, wine bottles, dishes. We found a lot of material, all broken, of course, but we found a lot of stuff in the garbage. Also, what they have is root cellar, and a root cellar is like 2 feet below the ground, below the floor. And they use that as kind of a refrigerator. You could store food in that bin, and it's cooler because of the it being below the ground. It's 4 feet. So, is there any questions you have not asked?
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. We're so lucky to have Jackie to give the first-hand account of what happened there, and just to let